Good evening. These are the stories making the headlines in the Hot 7 Nightly News.
The Crisis Center says that deep-seated anger towards females is driving sexual assault on island. The executive director of the St. Lucia Employers Federation says the money on the road for Christmas proposal by the National Workers Union is a viable option. And former NEMO director goes red in the cheeks with flattery after the meme #BringBackDawnFrench sweeps social media. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely and Amy Joseph.
It is Friday, the 16th of November, 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I am Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Anger, self-esteem issues, and mental health issues. These have been identified as some of the underlying issues driving the scourge of sexual violence on island. The source of this analysis is a longtime counselor working with the St. Lucia Crisis Center. She is calling for strategic programs to tackle these underlying issues.
It is always difficult to gauge the true scope of sexual violence and assault in a society because historically these incidents are underreported in countries across the globe. But even with the incidents that do get reported and make it to the news here in St. Lucia, there is growing alarm by organizations and the general public about the prevalence of these crimes. The latest incident was that of an attempted sexual assault against a senior. Faith St. Catherine is a counselor at the St. Lucia Crisis Center and says to effectively address the scourge, society needs to understand that simple sexual desire has almost nothing to do with sexual violence, such as rape.
It's about power, it's about low self-esteem, it's about anger, it may be about mental illness, there may be drug involved. We need to think about practical solutions. First of all, we need to look at root causes, right? A person who there are issues with, we have a lot of angry young men around the place. A person who is brought up in an environment where he has a good relationship with the females in his life, his caregivers, his mother, his grandmother, sister, whichever female is in his life, is not likely to go and rape somebody. It's a power thing. In most cases, I think it's anger against females.
St. Catherine says there must be careful examination of the underlying issues that lead to sexual crimes. In response, she calls on the public to agitate for the implementation of social programs that get to the heart of such problems while there is still time to nip it in the bud.
Is to be able to identify very early the males in our society who have problems and try to get them the kind of help they need. We need psychiatrists, we need counselors, we need social workers, and we need to be able to identify. We also need to look at parenting.
St. Catherine says unless such issues are dealt with as a matter of urgency, society will continue to suffer the crimes perpetrated by sexual predators.
The executive director of the St. Lucia Employers Federation, Joseph Alexander, has placed the ball for the acceptance of a lump sum of money in the hands of the National Workers Union after the organization wrote to the head of the government negotiating team, Vern Gill, on the present status of negotiations between the two bodies. The National Workers Union expressed concerns over the Christmas payment on behalf of workers employed with the government categories including non-establishment, daily paid, constituency councils, watchmen, cleaners, and cooks. The union stated that it was of the opinion that very little could be achieved with a year-end staring at both government and the National Workers Union. Friday, Joseph Alexander of the Employers Federation told Hot 7 News that the request is understandable as normally negotiations are always late.
What is normally done is, and it's because the employer in most instances has not made an allocation for back pay, because you just never know what amount would be agreed. So you could not have made the allocation. So what is normally done is the employer may say, okay, since I made no allocation for back pay, what I will do, I will offer you a lump sum. So whatever amount of money, and the union will look at it and decide whether they can run with that.
Alexander said because allocations were not made, there is no major issue for employers. He said lump sums spare both employers and employees from tedious times.
When you agree increases, if you work back pay, then you have to go back on overtime and all hours worked. It's a very lengthy and problematic process. So just to avoid all that, the employer would normally offer a lump sum, which the union could now decide on what basis it's going to share that lump sum. So it could share it in proportion to wages. It could also share it on tenure, how long that you've worked for the organization. So suppose I give you a lump sum of $1 million and you have 500 employees. You may decide to take the million divided by 500, or you may say, no, let me look at the years of service and pay it in proportion to years of service.
Alexander says in the end, the final decision to accept the lump sum is that of the union. In other news, the CSA believes in being guided by its members, and it thinks that the NWU's lump sum proposal to the GNT has its disadvantages. CSA's General Secretary Claude Paul spoke with Hot 7 News, divulging what he believes is a much better solution. Solange Alfred reports.
The recent money on the road proposal by the National Workers Union has had many weighing in on the decision by the union that requests the Government Negotiating Team, GNT, provide much-needed financial relief to their daily paid workers by providing a lump sum payment. Deputy President General of the NWU, Solis Myers, explains the terms that the NWU have put forth to the GNT.
The NW is the bargaining agent for daily paid workers within the government of St. Lucia. And what we have done is we have put forward a proposal as it relates to our wage negotiations for our members. A meeting is scheduled for the government negotiating team, I believe, next week. And coming out of that meeting, we'll be in a better position because we would have seen how they respond to that proposal as it relates to the Christmas period.
However, according to General Secretary of the St. Lucia Civil Service Association, Claude Paul, the CSA would have gone a different route with its bargaining and negotiation approach.
Traditionally, we negotiate with government for percentage increases on the salary. And, you know, there are advantages to that in that your salary would increase. It would help you when you deal with financial institutions and the like, in terms of your debt to income ratio and so. So it's important that from time to time, as the standard of living increases, that your salary increases along with it, so you'll be able to make financial decisions. So that a lump sum on its own does not affect the salary base. And therefore, essentially, if we were to accept that, it would mean that the 2013 salaries when we last negotiated is what we'll be going into in 2019, and there'll be a 6-year gap.
Paul went on to state that the CSA is guided by democratic principles, and a meeting with its members will ensure that the union is guided appropriately with its courses of action.
The workers have to look out for themselves as well. And so, as I said earlier, we will wait for the guidance from our members. They will advise us how to move forward on this particular matter, and we will take it from there.
NWU reps have divulged to Hot 7 News that shop stewards from around the island have given their unanimous support to move forward with the lump sum request to the GNT for the collective disbursement before Christmas. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
The Public Relations Officer of the Grosley Minibus Owners Association is calling on the powers that be to address the inefficiencies that exist in plying the Castries Grosley route. Thomas St. Louis believes that more can be done with the island's infrastructure to address the dilemma that they're facing. Nisha Charles reports.
If you're trying to get to Grosley from Castries or vice versa on a morning in under an hour, then count yourself lucky, because that's highly unlikely to happen. Why, you may ask? Well, the Castries-Grosley highway is just too congested, and frankly, the Grosley minibus owners have had enough of it. According to the PRO of the Grosley Minibus Owners Association, the drivers have been getting the flack for not enough buses on the road, but that's simply not the case. He says the country's main hub of commercial activity is in dire need of infrastructural reform so that their day's work can be a lot smoother.
We have 167 buses running the Castries-Grosley Highway, okay? And to help us out with that, there is the Grenivier Association, there's the Babono Association, plus there is the Mossy Association. So we have over 300 buses plying the Castries-Grosley road combined. So to say there is not enough buses, I think that is not relevant. What I would say to the ministry is to at least try to curve down on the situation, and there are a lot of soft solutions that could be implemented on the road. For example, the shock to Marisil, there's an extra lane. When you get to the top of shock, there's always an accident. I've seen a lot of accidents throughout my years on the road in that area just because of the two lanes merging.
The PRO is calling on the government, in particular the ministry responsible for transport, to address the delays in daily commute.
We take an hour and a half to go to Grosley and back. You take more time going from Castries to Grosley, whereas you will take 1 hour to go to Vieux Fort and back. It's costing us more time to get to Grosley than go to Vieux Fort and back. So I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, that Castries-Grosley highway needs some attention. We need some more lanes. We need some roundabouts. We need that road to be addressed, because it's creating a problem. Fix the back roads. Make it more conducive for the operators. You understand what I'm saying? We need to do something about that, because Castries-Grosley highway is in a lot of trouble, and that is the route that is more utilized in the country.
According to the PRO, back in 2016, the Ministry of Transport held meetings to discuss soft solutions to the problems facing the Castries-Grosley highway, but to date, none of those solutions have been implemented. For the Hot 7 News, I'm Nisha Charles reporting.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. We'll be right back.